Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the first Local Heroes Alternative Route to Interim Teaching Certification Workshop. It's quite a mouthful. I'm Donna Petras. I am a consultant with the Michigan Community College Association and am working on this project along with my colleagues Erica Oriens and Evan Pauken from MCCA, who really are the leads for the project. Before we get started, I just want to say, feel free to post any questions or comments that you have throughout the presentation into the chat. I'm hoping that Erica and/or Evan can be keeping track of those and we can cover them at the end of the workshop. I already had a question in the chat about the slides being available. And what we generally do is we post the slides and any recordings that we do to the event page following the presentation. It takes a day or so to get the recording actually posted, but we are recording this presentation. So related to K-12 teachers, did you know that the K-12 teachers are the #1 most burnt out profession in the United States today, and that they reference compensation as the #1 reason educators plan to quit their jobs? Moving on to the agenda for today.
Donna, I don't think your slides are advancing. Oh, there we go. Now they are.
Okay. Moving on to the agenda for today, we'll be presenting 6 monthly workshops from now until July, and this is our agenda on the screen for the first workshop. I'll be providing an overview of the Local Heroes Project, some information related to the K-12 staffing challenges, a review of the K-12 certification requirements for the state of Michigan, and then conclude with an overview of the teacher program options that are available. As I mentioned, this workshop is being recorded, just to let you know. Since the group is quite large today, it would be difficult to do individual introductions. So what we like to do is to provide a prompt to engage everyone in the chat. So I'd like you to post your name and institution and role, because there's a lot of names on this list that I don't necessarily recognize as far as being integrated with a lot of our activities thus far. So please introduce yourself and provide a number of the estimate of students at your institution who you believe are pursuing a K-12 teacher program. If you don't have any idea what that number is, just put an NA in the chat related to that. This information will help us determine the number of students, perhaps statewide, who are interested in becoming a K-12 teacher. So please go to the chat and just take a minute to post your name, institution, and role, and then the number of students at your institution who are pursuing K-12 teacher program. So what I'd first like to do is provide you with an overview of the Local Heroes Project itself. This is what the state budget office calls a work project, and the money has been allocated to the Michigan Community College Association. $500,000 has been allocated to be spent over the next 3 years. It officially commenced on October 1st, 2024, which is the start of the fiscal year 2025 budget cycle. The total allocation covers 3 areas, including K-12 teachers, first responders, and allied health professionals. However, this workshop series will only be focusing on the education component. Each of the tasks below basically represents each year of the project. In year 1, we'll be gathering and analyzing data. Year 2, strategies will be developed based on these data with input from stakeholders like yourselves, who attend these workshops, as well as others throughout the state. And then the last component will be the implementation of these strategies, which will take place in year 3. Just a few tidbits about K-12 staffing challenges. Based on the research, we have found that COVID-19 had a profound impact on how K-12 education was being delivered, which I'm sure all of you know, as well as higher education delivery. Interestingly, though, the dramatic decline in teacher prep program enrollment started to occur back in 2011. before COVID-19, kind of through 2017. There has been some rebound, but not compared to the enrollment levels experienced in 2012. We've also found that urban and rural districts experience the greatest challenges, with special education and those areas of the sciences experiencing acute shortages. And then unfortunately, students of color and students from low-income families are disproportionately affected. The next thing I want to talk about are the types of teacher preparation options we have in Michigan. There are two primary options for individuals pursuing teacher certification. The first is a traditional program. This is offered through an education program provider or an EPP. And this option is usually taught through a college or university, what you would think of that traditional route. Most take 4 to 6 years to complete. When you conclude the required student teaching requirement, it takes about that long beyond just the regular coursework. There's actually a post-baccalaureate option that's referenced, and it's generally the same in terms of where it's offered, but it takes 1 to 3 years to complete depending on the courses taken for the bachelor's degree that's already been earned. We are actually going to focus on an alternative pathway for teacher education. This pathway allows you to be employed as a full-time teacher with an interim teaching certificate. But in order to be issued that interim teaching certificate, you must have a bachelor's degree completed, pass the MTTC, the Michigan Test for Teacher Certification, in the content area in which you will be certified. And this generally takes about 3 to 5 years to complete in terms of the alternative route program. As I mentioned, this project will focus on the alternative route option, or ARC is the acronym that we use, and specifically the program at Schoolcraft College. And I'll be providing some more information a little bit later in the presentation, as well as in future workshops specific to the ARC program option. So I thought it would be helpful to just provide an overview of the K-12 teacher certification requirements in the state of Michigan. This information comes directly from the Michigan DOE website. And then you'll notice that in this slide, there are links, and each of those links provide additional information. Requirements include completion of the preparation program. Within that program, students pursuing an elementary teacher path must complete 6 credit hours of reading courses. And then for secondary teachers, only 3 credit hours. Students must also complete student teaching and pass the appropriate MTT certification. It's also important to note that the passage of the MTT content exams is required before entrance into an ARC program. In the traditional route, those happen either midway or after. But for the ARC program, you must complete that prior to entrance in the program. So this flow chart may be a little bit difficult to read, but as I mentioned earlier, the slides will be available for you to view and to print and take a closer look at. A quick orientation to this chart. The blue boxes that you see represent if a person has a degree and the type of degree that they hold. So as an example, do they already have a degree? No, they might go to traditional path. Yes, they might go up to the ARC path. If a student holds an associate's degree, they have the option of doing the traditional path or an ARC path. The orange boxes represent that traditional pathway, and the green boxes represent the ARC pathway. As I mentioned earlier, Schoolcraft will be our partner in this project, and I'd like to introduce someone from Schoolcraft who is a great partner on this project, and welcome Jody Beckley. Jody, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then you can describe a little bit about how the ARC program option differs from a traditional program.
Okay, sure. Thank you,
Thank
Donna.
Jody.
Thank you. I'm Jody Beckley. I'm Associate Dean for Occupational Programs at Schoolcraft College. And one of the occupational programs in my area is the ARC program. And so as Donna mentioned along the bottom in the orange there, that's the traditional path, which I think most of us are familiar with. where a student eventually will go to a four-year institution, complete student teaching, pass the MTTCs, and then receive their standard teaching certificate. But if a student already has a degree, already has a bachelor's degree, and perhaps they are thinking, you know, I've been in this career, whatever X career is, for many years, I'm ready for a change. I would like to teach. Then the alternate path is a really good way for them to get to that teaching certificate. So they would apply to Schoolcraft College and then to the ARC program. And they must have, and within that bachelor's degree, a GPA, an average GPA of 3.0. And they must maintain that throughout the program. So they also have to, of course, pass a background check, which is a standard for Michigan. And we will review their transcript. There are, in some cases, a student who perhaps took a few teacher education classes along the way. It didn't go anywhere, but it is on their transcript. And if it can be articulated, we can give up to 6 credit hours for that. So once then they are eligible and we've determined that they've met all the requirements, as Donna mentioned, we want them to complete the Michigan test for teacher certification. And that's going to vary. So if it's K3, for example, those are 4 tests, 3, 6, 4 tests. And I know there's a webinar devoted to MTTC, so I'm not going to get into those details here. But if for some reason the student can't pass those exams right up front, we will admit them on a probationary status. So they'll have 1 year in which to pass those tests. And during that time, then they can be in phase 1 of the program. So in phase 1, they are then taking their pre-certification courses. And those vary depending on the grade band, but they all include a clinical experience of 60 credit hours, or 60 hours, 60 hours in the field. So once that's completed within that year and they pass the MTTCs, then we will recommend them for the interim teacher certificate. So with that certificate, then they are employed by a school district or a school, and during 3 years, they're in phase 2 of the program. So they're attending courses, all of the courses are online, so they don't interfere during the day. They attend those courses for 3 years. They again maintain their GPA of 3.0. And in addition, we provide an instructional coach. So that coach goes to the school on a regular basis. They conduct observations using the Danielson framework, and they provide input and feedback to the student throughout their time, helping them to progress along the standards that they need to show proficiency in. And they also receive support from a peer mentor. Now, all first-year teachers in the state of Michigan are assigned a mentor, but in this program, the ARC peer mentor is a little bit different in that they will also conduct observations using the Danielson framework. And they're there in the building teaching every day, so they are a go-to, an immediate go-to for that teacher candidate if they need somebody other than their instructional coach. So during those 3 years, they are again going to classes, working every day, getting support, and at the conclusion, once we have determined that they've met all those requirements, then we recommend them for their standard teaching certificate. And at that point, we consider them to be completers of our program. Many of the teacher candidates then are employed by that school wherever they were already working as the teacher candidate. Some do leave, some go to a different district, or they move somewhere else in Michigan. But at that point, they are finished.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Just a couple clarification questions that might be helpful for the people attending. So the ARC pathway requires a student to hold a bachelor's degree. I've noted there that it's in any discipline on it that the student may finish. So it could be general studies, integrative studies. It doesn't have to be in education. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The other question that I had was related to the component of financing, and I know we're going to really talk about that later, but we did do a footnote down there at the bottom in terms of financial resources, but can you talk about that just in brief?
Sure. So for the student in this program, they have tuition, just like any other student to pay for the courses, but there are also fees. And so those fees cover, I mentioned the instructional coach, the peer mentor, and then I didn't talk about all of the other support products that we have that we use. So we have an electronic portfolio system. All of those things, of course, cost money. So that fee is then split out over 3 years. So it's 6,300 total, and the student pays 2,100 each year of the 3 years that they're in phase two.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So do you find that most districts are willing to take on someone with an interim certificate and then support them throughout that process?
Yes.
Okay. I think districts are desperate enough to try to fill classrooms that I can't imagine a district not being open to that, but
No, I
all
think
right.
they're very pleased, and the feedback, I mean, I know we'll go into this at another webinar, but
Mhm.
the surveys that we get during the time that the teachers are in the phase one and phase two, as well as once they complete, we always receive very, very high ratings from principals and administrators. So I would say yes, they're always very excited to have a teacher that they know is qualified and is going to do well.
Okay, great. That was a great overview, Jody. As we both referenced, the next workshop in March will be focused entirely on Schoolcraft's ARC program, and we'll go into much, much more detail related to each of these steps. Speaking of the next workshops, I just wanted to review this in terms of making sure everyone knew kind of what we were planning to cover over each workshop. We don't like to overload individuals with too much information under each workshop, but we'll kind of overlay and review at the beginning of each and then add the information that is related to each of the titles here. So in March, workshop number 2 will be an overview of that ARC program at Schoolcraft. Workshop number 3 will talk specifically about those prerequisites and course outcomes for those courses that Jody made reference to. Workshop number 4 in May, we're going to explore some bachelor's degree options. We have explored some opportunities with a couple of different four-year institutions where we can help students complete that bachelor's degree if they don't currently have one. So whether they've taken community college courses or actually have an associate's degree, we're looking to try to build kind of 3+1 programs. So it's an easier pathway for those students to complete the bachelor's degree in a timely manner so that they can actually get into the ARC program. In June, workshop number 5 will go into the Michigan Test for Teacher Certification, the MTTC. There's a lot of detail there. It's a lot of information that will help in terms of talking with your students about what's included in those tests, talk about supports that are available for them to help complete those tests and be successful in those courses. In July, we're also planning a summer retreat at Schoolcraft, a day-long retreat, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then at the conclusion of that day-long retreat, about a week after, we're going to do our last workshop, which will focus on strategies for communication and recruitment to get students involved. Each of these links on this page, again, goes to the registration page for those workshops. So you can then make sure you register. So one thing we like to provide to a lot of information that I included in today's workshop. These resources include links to kind of the sources that I used. The first thing I want to emphasize, however, is that Evan actually created a Local Heroes ARC landing page on the MCCA website. And there's a subscribe button there. That page describes a lot of the information that we're covering, the workshops that are available, but the subscribe button is kind of a way for you to stay informed. We will send out information, we'll send out reminders. So it's kind of like a listserv almost for you to subscribe to. So we really encourage you to go to that Local Heroes ARC page and then fill out the information we need for you to subscribe. As I mentioned, a lot of this information came from the Michigan Department of Education site. It also came from the EPP Providers and Programs site. That landing page actually has an option to search providers as well as programs. And the providers also have a filter where you can look at those that offer traditional programs as well as ARC programs, or what they call alternative programs. There's a link here for the teacher certification code, which is basically the requirements. There's also a page that the Michigan Department of Education provides specific to the alternative routes to education. And then some of the other information that I have on here is also articles that provide information about the teacher shortage in Michigan. The EPIC policy research through Michigan State University has a number of great articles. So I've just kind of given you a landing page there to do kind of a search and a sort for that information. So I saved a lot of time here at the end because I thought there might be questions. So as far as next steps, I first want to do that. Register for future workshops. And as I mentioned, workshop number 2 is March 24th, same time. Information on the ARC program at Schoolcraft will be covered, including the specific ARC requirements, the process, the timeline, and the resources. So thank you for attending today, but I would really like to make sure we, again, save some time for questions. Before we do that, before I ask to see if there's any in the chat, Erica or Evan, is there any information or anything you'd like to say about the project?
Thanks, Donna. Hi, everyone. This is Erica Oriens from MCCA. I just wanted to thank all of you for joining and appreciate your interest in partnering with Schoolcraft to share the ARC opportunity with students at your institution. And I think that we've heard from many of your leadership at your colleges how important it is to be able to respond to, in a variety of different ways, to the students who are interested in careers as a teacher. And I was counting up the number of students across all of your colleges, and there are just hundreds of students that are interested and eager for opportunities to complete teacher education programs. And I'm thrilled that Schoolcraft was willing to partner with us to help share that opportunity with other colleges. So just wanted to say that. Thanks, Donna.
Great, thank you. So at this point, I'd love to open it up to any questions that might have been posted if there are any there, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can also raise your hand and we will call on you.
I have a quick question. Jennifer Wixon from North Central Michigan College. Is the goal of the workshops to help us figure out how to partner with Schoolcraft to get our students into the ARC program, or to help us figure out how to become an teacher certification program through the Department of Ed and offer a similar program at our institution?
I'll let Erica respond to that, but generally what we have found, or the information that we have, is that the Department of Ed is not likely to approve any new ARC programs, but Erica, I'll let you answer that further.
Yeah, that's correct. So good question, Jennifer. As of right now, MDE is not approving any new ARC providers. So what we're trying to do is work around that limitation so that North Central can teach some of the classes in the ARC program, help students understand how to complete the bachelor's degree in the MTTC, and then they would finish out and enroll in that Schoolcraft program while they're teaching. So it's a little bit more like a transfer agreement, with Schoolcraft College being the transfer destination for students.
Okay, thank you very much.
I will say after that, though, one of the things that I've learned along this process, and I think will be helpful for you as well, if there is a point in time in the future where MDE does open up applications for ARC providers again, I would highly recommend participating in these workshops, because you will learn so much about what Schoolcraft does to manage their program, that if there is something that is of interest to you in the future, you learn a lot about what is required to offer an ARC program.
Thank you, Erica. Someone had raised their hand, but now I don't see who it was. Did anybody catch that?
That was me,
Oh, there
Donna.
you go.
This is
Go ahead.
Carol Almeta, KVCC. I think I got my question answered. We're a community college. We're not a credentialing college for BA degrees. We work closely with Western. They've had the urban teacher residency program, which is similar, but I was just questioning, is this something that a community college could do? It's really not. It's really about partnering with a 4-year credentialing institution. So, and that's great. I just wanted to clarify that. You did.
Let me perhaps provide some further clarification related to that.
Okay.
What we're trying to do with the ARC program is provide an accelerated, in a way, path for students to complete. So it's not necessarily just looking at community colleges and creating an articulation agreement or a transfer plan with 4-year institutions. I will also reference that there are other ARC providers in the state, and we'll cover that again in workshop number 2. Some of those are universities. Schoolcraft, I believe, is the only community college that offers that option. And what we see as the benefit with that is because there are so many community college students who are looking for that path, we wanted to make sure that there was an option for them to complete the bachelor's degree in a timely manner and then enter into that ARC program. And then there's also, as we mentioned, or as Jody referenced, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree in that educational umbrella. It can be any bachelor's degree to be eligible to then enter that ARC program. So it's not just simply trying to develop transfer plans, it's really trying to develop accelerated options for students to fill the gaps that we're seeing in the state of Michigan in a more timely manner. We've actually seen evidence too of students who are in traditional programs exit out of those to then go into the ARC program because they can finish their bachelor's degree in a more timely manner and then begin to teach right away in a classroom without having to do that student teaching first and then look for a position. I hope that helped clarify a little bit.
Yes, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm giving you a half hour of time back to you for your day that you didn't plan on. Again, this is really just an introduction to the workshops, and I think the next workshops will provide a lot more detail for you. In the meantime, if you have questions or if you'd like more information before we get to that next workshop, feel free to reach out to myself or Jody or Erica or Evan. So thanks very much and have a great rest of your day.